Hello, everybody. We're here to talk about the new Tomb Raider, and I've got. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Matt Kohler.
And I'm Ian Blaylock.
And they're from Red Fist Productions. If you haven't seen Batman Master of Fear, go check it out. What are you doing, dude?
I'm trying to spell it out. It's like, so that was my thing in Young Justice.
Right.
I'd always call out the number. I'm like, then this is a lot harder to
spell out Tomb Raider with your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might as well do like YMCA over here.
Yeah.
Now, just for a quick synopsis, what did you think of Tomb Raider? Like initial impressions.
Thank God I had Movie Pass.
Okay, you didn't like it. What about you, Ian?
I was really glad that I had Movie Pass. Yeah, it was a little boring.
Movie Pass.
I thought it was a fun adventure movie.
Oh.
Now, from what I understand, the movie is basically a film remake of the rebooted game from 2013.
Yeah, done by Square Enix.
Yeah, now I didn't play that game, but from what I've been told, it's almost story-wise, cutscene, shot for shot, almost everything is like from the game.
Yes, it pretty much is. Because I played the game, and I just played it last year, actually.
Now, one of the things with previous video game movies is people complain that the movie's not enough like the game, you know, and just like anything that's based off of another property, whether it be a book or a TV show or another movie or whatever, you have the source material. So why don't you follow the source material? And everybody complains about that. This movie follows the source material, maybe a little too close to where it's not an original story. However, I think it does show, it proves that they can do a movie that's like the game and feels like the game, and the characters are there just like in the game. And so if they do a sequel, I would want an original storyline just with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Would you watch a sequel if it had an original storyline that didn't follow the games?
I mean, my biggest problem wasn't even that it was taking from the game. It was more like, I think my biggest thing is it didn't feel like a big supposed blockbuster movie. Like, everything felt very small. Like in the video game, they like, the crew's like 20 people that they take, and you see these people like getting, killed left and right, and so it feels like a very survival feel. When they go in the tomb, it's so much bigger than it is in the movie. Like, I actually busted out laughing when I saw the size of the tomb. I'm like, that's it? Like, it looks like this little dinky model that they had. Like especially compared to the video game or like other things. And another thing is, my other big thing was that there wasn't many henchmen, but we'll get into all that. But yeah, I think the scale of the movie was my biggest complaint.
Okay, what about you, Ian?
So my biggest complaint has more to do with just kind of the characterization of like the major characters. I didn't really feel that strong of a connection to Lara Croft, which I feel like that was kind of something that was important to get done. So by the end of the story, even though I was interested in the mystery behind the temple and the queen, that they were like gonna go into the tomb and figure out what secret she had, I didn't really feel that strongly about the characters because I couldn't really understand where they were coming from for a lot of it. Like in the very beginning, Laura's not doing anything related to tomb raiding stuff. and you kind of get to know that she's like down on her luck, and she's working this job, and she doesn't have any money. And you're like, that's kind of strange. And then immediately it's like, and all the people around her are really interesting. They seem like cool characters, but they're only in one scene each.
Right.
And then you're immediately thrown into, actually, Laura's really rich, but because she won't sign some paperwork, so she won't get the money. And that kind of was, I mean, I could understand it, but like, there's a lot of like logical problems that went along with it. Not that I was like trying to dissect the movie too much, but it's like, okay, so when her dad died, was she like thrown out of her house because she's not living there? Did she like completely run out of money like right away? Because the whole thing is like, because she pawns like this priceless thing that her dad gave her to fund her little adventure.
Well, no, she didn't sign the paperwork, so she doesn't have access to the money yet.
But like, for 7 years, she's not had any money because her dad's been missing.
No, because
no, she lived in foster care.
She
She's got this big old house, and all these people are working there.
Well, they mentioned it in the movie. She said, "I don't want any of it." She doesn't want to take any of it because she doesn't feel that her father is dead. And if she takes it, then she's basically saying, just like if she signed the paperwork, she is saying my father is dead, and she can't do that. That's what they set up with her character, is she doesn't want to admit that he is probably dead.
See, and I got that, but then, and they do make the point where the Guardian says, you know, you can spend however much money, no one's ever going to go look for your father. But it's like, if she just signs the paperwork, she could do whatever she wants. It's like, so, I mean, it is more of an emotional decision on her part. Logically, I agree. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
But for her, the emotion of her character, and I think, you know, probably a lot of people would do that as well, that she doesn't want to admit or say for certain that he's dead. Right.
And I definitely feel that and can agree with that. But on top of that, the other thing that bothered me about, because I feel like this movie has a lot of like emotional things for her to work through, but they don't ever build her relationship with her dad other than he's leaving. And I feel like other movies that deal with this sort of thing, there's usually something where it's like, oh, they've bonded around something.
Right.
And so they still have that. So that's why you would say, oh, she's going after him, because she seems to be like irritated at him before she goes to sign the paperwork. But
well,
she's
she feels like she's been left. You know, she's been left alone. And I guess what they're trying to do with those backflashes is to say that he's always leaving. Yeah. But he keeps promising to come back, but he does, except for that last time. Now, I agree with you. They shouldn't have done the whole bicycle thing in the beginning, because you did spend time setting up some interesting characters that you never touched on again. Then they had this
ride on a bicycle again.
Right.
Although it was cool.
And then they had like the whole, you know, fox hunt bicycle chase scene, which, yeah, it's kind of an interesting action sequence, but why? Like, what's the point of it? Is it just to show that she can bike really well, but she'll never bike again? You know? Now, the part in the beginning where she's boxing and they're doing, it looked like they were doing Muay Thai, but it could have just been kickboxing. When they were doing that and she loses, that was interesting. And I was like, oh, okay. She's working through some emotions. She's, you know, dealing with some stuff, and it's not working out for her that great. Mm-hmm. But then they just kind of skipped over that and went into the whole other thing. I agree it would have been better if she had the money. You know, especially when she thinks she found out that he might still be alive. You know, what I was thinking in the theater was, sign the paperwork, because if he's not dead, you bring him back and prove that he's not dead, and then the paperwork doesn't matter.
Yeah, and like use the money to like buy the resources to take to this island instead of only being able to afford one crew member, in which he does not matter at all in this story. What the hell? The one other actor who I wanted to see in this movie, Daniel Wu, like disappears after his like couple of scenes. He's like, "Hi guys, I'm Daniel Wu," and then it's like, "You won't see me again until the end."
Yeah, he's basically just there to help get the other slaves out, and then be support. He's a supporting character. Now, Walter Goggins, I really liked him as the villain. I like Walter Goggins in general, but I thought he was a really good villain.
I just wish, like, I felt like this movie tried really hard to set up a sequel. Like, you know, in a lot of ways when he's like, the only person who I talk to is the person in the walkie. It's like, well, we won't see them until the end or the second one. And like, so it's like this bad guy doesn't matter a whole lot because, you know, he is just the B villain. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you know, at the end, we spend like 5 minutes, like at Sherlock Holmes, going back through the entire movie going, wait, it was her all along. And it's like, oh, God.
So did you guys think that Walter Goggins was on the island the whole time?
Yeah.
Because that's what I was getting. I felt kind of, I mean, I didn't like that he's obviously bad because he's just like shooting people left and right. But I was like, man, you should have worked on that contract before you got on this job.
Also, why didn't he just lie that he had the item? They don't know what it looks like because that helicopter lands no matter what. And they still like are just pointing guns. Like he literally could have done the exact same thing, been like, oh, yeah, I got it. It's really big. You can bring that helicopter now right away. And literally as the helicopter comes down, just shoot both the pilots or do the exact same thing and go.
Well, obviously he was afraid of the organization. If you didn't bring them something that could be proven, just like any gang movie, you know, if they don't get to verify it, they'll kill you. And he probably, you know, even if he had a contract with him, he had said in the movie, you know, I've called them, they won't let me go until I find it. So he's tried in the past to get off the island, but they won't let him. They're like, no, we're not sending anybody until you have the item. And then he would have to prove that he has the item before they would, not kill him. Mm-hmm. So he's stuck there. No matter what contract he signed, if it was a good one or not, he was stuck there. I got that sense from it. Like, I had no problem with his motivations. And he did seem like he was going a little cuckoo from being there for 7 years. Which makes sense. You know, especially when you want to leave and you can't.
Should have looked at the fine details on the contract. Warning, you will not be able to leave until finding that.
Well, with organizations like that, they probably don't put that in the fine print. They break the contract.
Yeah.
Now, some of the CGI near the end wasn't very good. Like, it was okay. Especially for, like, a video game action movie.
There was parts where it looked like they were in a studio. Anytime that she was in the water, like the water sequence, like there's parts where I'm like, and that's a studio. And like, because you could tell like it was like it was like a controlled water.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, and here's the backdrop in the back. It looks so weird. Like nothing, like there was no depth to anything. Everything felt like this, you know, it was all flat. It was very obvious for me at least to see, oh, she wasn't doing all that, which in a lot of ways I feel bad I feel bad to some degree about a lot of the action scenes because, like, wow, she spent 7 months getting hypothermia and doing all this other crazy stuff, and you either can't see the fights, she's just usually shooting a bow and arrow, or it's green screen. It was like, what was the point of training that hard, to doing like, potentially dying if you can't see it?
Yeah, some of the fight scenes weren't, they weren't edited very well. But that's kind of standard with these movies. Like, I almost expect it now. Yeah.
You're just like, whatever.
I mean, some of the action sequences, like being on the airplane, being in the ocean on the boat, that kind of stuff, they did have some nice wide shots and, some decent slow-mo with the jumping that she can do unrealistically. But that all fits in the game, So, would you want a Tomb Raider movie that was more realistic, or would you want one that's more like the game?
Well, I mean,
because if it's more realistic, people are going to complain it's not like the game.
I think there's a way to make it more realistic, but like the game, because the game, like the 2013 game, is a more realistic version of the original Tomb Raider. Mm-hmm. Like, every stake matters. You're not just jumping to jump; you're jumping for your life. Every fight matters. Every action sequence. People actually die, and like, there's not the weight to anything in this movie compared to the game. Like I would say like the only stuff, and I wish there was more of it, is like when Vikander was like injured or getting beat up, which she gets beat up a lot, which that's one thing I will say about this movie that I liked, was she didn't just go in and is like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and like kicking the crap out of everyone.
Right.
Like, she takes beatings, which was nice to see, not in a wrong way. Right. What?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
but I just think
you're saying that she wasn't just like kicking butt the whole time.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning we see her fail at the box stuff.
I will say, like, I think there had to be at some point where she gets better, because she kind of loses almost every fight and just magically wins. Like, it's like, oh, the timing of the bomb just so happened to go off, before she died, or, oh, thank God there was water, otherwise she would have lost that fight, earlier on, or thank God she got a bow and arrow. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's like, I wish like she picked up something, or she had a reason, to beat the guy, like to beat the opponent in the fight, and I think that would have made it better. Also, I think there needed to be weight to stuff that was happening. I think there needed to be other people dying, like some of the other like people in the camp. I think we should. I think there needed to be more characters, because there's like 5 characters in the movie, and it's like, well, they can't kill them all, and like, there's not many of them they can kill, so we're kind of just like, oh, random extra guy got shot in head, I don't care about him. But like, if there's a couple characters that we saw a little bit of that had a backstory that died, you would have felt something at least, or like, oh, okay, there's a threat.
Like, even if they just had the 2 friends that she was, in the bicycle delivery service went with her.
Yeah.
Like, even that, I agree with you on that there should have been some more characterization with some other characters that supported her and went with her to help her out, that kind of thing. Now, I didn't play the video game, so I went into this movie just seeing the movie. Now, I've seen pictures and some little video play of the game, but and I was like, wow, she does look like that character. I thought
she looks pretty much spot on to that one, which is
really good.
Yeah.
And I thought acting-wise, she did a good job. Now, you were talking about the scale of things, like the tomb and stuff like that. From my point of view, it looked fine, just because I didn't see the game.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean if they're going to do a movie, they shouldn't be doing the storyline from the game? They need to have the feel of the game, but have their own original story, because, you know, gamers or people like you guys are going to compare every little detail to the game. And if it's not exactly right, they're not going to like the movie.
I mean, I definitely understand where that comes from. I think for me, I think a lot of it would have been cleared up if I actually cared about the characters. Because, like, you know, I've read books before that become movies, and, you know, or done the opposite way. I watched a movie, then read a book. A good example is I watched Blade Runner before I read the book. And I was just as engaged with the book as I was with the movie. You know, I was still like, is Decker going to live through this in the book? Like, I know how it ends in the movie, but it looks like it could be different. And it's a little different, but not like, you know, nothing crazy. And even like that, but like, the stories, like, it takes forever for the story to start, because like the first 30 minutes they're not even on the island. It's like in London and Hong Kong. It's like, well, this stuff doesn't matter, because like Tomb Raider's about raiding tombs. Like, just give me a scene like in Indiana Jones where we start off doing the thing that we came to do.
But why would she be a Tomb Raider already? Like, the whole idea of this movie is that she hasn't started that yet.
Well, we can show like another group, or like, you know, maybe we see like Dominic West's, you know, crew go in and they're getting like mowed down by this organization on the island, like something like that.
Well,
like,
then,
at least,
well, then in that vein, yeah, it would have been cool to have the opening of the movie be where her father and Goggins, you know, the kind of the moment of when her father was supposedly dead, like what happened to him that made Goggins think he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the reveal that he's not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. That would have been a great opening.
And I had read that in somewhere in one of the games, when they tell like her backstory, she's like gone on adventures with her father before. So I figured that there would at least be some connection to, you know, her knowing something about what her father did as far as like archaeology, or, you know, something about, you know, the myths and that sort of thing. And they kind of allude to that a little, but it's not really clear. And she doesn't have like a university education, so it's kind of like not really sure what she knows, what she doesn't. The other thing kind of that Matt had been talking about as far as like scale, since I haven't played the games, the scale of the tomb didn't really bother me. I did think it was kind of strange that it seemed like in Indiana Jones they do, well, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, they cover like multiple aspects of what they have to do to get to the Ark, and I feel like this story didn't have a lot of those things. Not that it needed to, but it was like it took a long time to get to the main story that we had kind of set up from the very beginning. And then once we kind of saw how small it was as far as like the scope of it, then it kind of has less of an impact. The other thing that we had talked about is like having more characterization would be better. They try to kill off Lara Croft so many times, like where they're like threatening to shoot her, and like I know that's kind of a nitpick thing, but like, you know that if it's 30 minutes in the movie and someone's holding a gun to her head, she's gonna make it. Like, right. You're not scaring me. like when they point the gun at Daniel Wu, then I'm like, his name's not in the title. So if I felt a strong connection to his character and Laura felt a strong connection to his character, then that would make me feel more concerned about what's going to happen.
Right. Or if they threatened her with some kind of physical violence that wouldn't kill her, but would be motivation to, do whatever it is they needed her to do. Like if he said something like, you don't need your foot to solve the puzzle. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, oh, crap, he's going to cut her foot off. What?
Yeah, that would have been insane.
He's going to go misery on him.
It was weird because, you're 30 minutes in and, the ship crashes and then you're in the tent and you have that Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like, are we almost at the end of the movie? It kind of feels like there's so little of the movie when they get on the island. Once she escapes, it's literally just Dominic West going, "You're a Tomb Raider," and she gets her bow and arrow to go kill people, and it's like we're already at the end of the movie. When she sees Dominic West, we're almost there. It's like we just got on the island. Shouldn't there be exploring in this field that you can't get off? Because in the game, the island is designed for you not to get off the island. Himiko, creates storms and changes storms, and she can control weather. And so that was the idea that anyone who got on the island, well, we can't get off because they, we just physically can't. We can't go by plane. We can't go. And so the entire goal was to kill Himiko, to find her and kill her.
Well, they had that in the movie.
No, I know, but it doesn't really outside. I mean, once they get on the island, it's really nice. It's sunny out. There's that one day of rain, but everything else, it's I don't see why can't you get off? It seems like by plane you can easily get on here because they took one helicopter to get here, and it's just oh look, we made it. This wasn't that bad. It's what? It's man, Laura Croft should have thought about keeping that money because she could have I don't know, if she got stuck on the island, get a helicopter, and then oh, we got here okay. but yeah, I feel like you could have done two things. One, start off with Dominic West and a crew of his, getting most of them getting killed off, and you think Dominic West is just dead, and that's the only scene you see him in. The other way, and this is exactly how the video game started, and I would have liked this a lot more. You start off already on the island. The entire movie revolves around the island, and you just either have flashbacks of when she was a kid in London. You just cut out that first 30 minutes because it's completely useless, and you focus the 2-hour movie about the island. Because I feel like the game focuses more on about the island than it does just the character. And I think that's what the movie should have done, because I don't think Laura Croft is that interesting of a character. And so you have to focus on something else. One thing I was thinking, Vikander is not Harrison Ford. She does not have the charisma of Harrison Ford or the personality of Harrison Ford. And so, I think they needed to focus on something else. And and I think, a magical island that won't let you off the island plus cool action would have done it for me.
Yeah, I like adventure films, and there's not very many of them. So when I get one, I'm really excited. You know, like you were saying, Indiana Jones, but I would also say Sahara and National Treasure,
The Mummy,
King Solomon's Mines, The Mummy. That all of those main characters had interesting, intriguing, you want to follow characters. The characterization in the beginning of this did not give us that. Now, if they did what you said and they either started on the island or they started with Dominic and Vogel, and why Vogel thinks Dominic's dead, that would have been good. However, I would wonder what they would do to create Laura's characterization. Now, whatever they should have done something different than the first 30 minutes, because the only part of that beginning scene, the two things that I liked were her kickboxing fight. I thought was a good character moment, and her chasing down the two guys in Hong Kong, even though it felt a little out of place and kind of thrown into the movie. At least it was something interesting for her character, that she doesn't give up, that she's not going to take things lying down, that kind of thing. It was just a random placement of a scene, like, we need a chase sequence. There you go.
Yeah. That feels like how most of the movie is, though. Like, the director or the producer, I feel like, felt scared to have a scene breathe or to take, like, time for anything. Like, every scene is like how people stereotype about martial art films. It's dialogue just to a chase scene or just to an action scene. Like, it's like almost every other scene. And once Laura's on the island and escapes, they're like one of the weirdest transitions I've ever seen in movies. She falls from the waterfall, and like she has like the little wood chip in her stomach. I think she pulls it off. It cuts to night. Instantly, fight scene with Guy. It's like, where did he come from? There's no shot to show that he's there. He instantly just attacks her, and then there's a fight.
Well, I mean, they say that they're going to send a guy after.
But like we literally just cut from like crazy chasing instantly to another fight scene, just like the night of.
Yeah, they didn't set up the fact that he was there. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Right after she fights him, like she kills him, like she straight up drowns him in the puddle, and then you can kind of see Alicia Vikander. She's not given a whole lot to do, but she does emote in that. Mm-hmm. But then right after, like, she's like, oh my gosh, I just killed somebody. I've never killed somebody. And then they're like, okay, walk it off. And then that's it. And it's like, oh, and she's still like impaled and bleeding out or whatever.
And then meets Moses Dominic West.
Yeah.
Yeah, her scene with the, killing that guy, her killing the first guy, she acted that very well, but then I agree with Ian. They moved on from it very quickly. It was like she did a good job acting in that scene, but then the following scene, it's almost like she just forgot about that. Or now she's okay with killing everybody with a bow and arrow.
All right.
Since I've killed one, I might as well kill them all. But I still had a lot of fun with the movie because I do like adventure films. I like the puzzle of the door. Even though that seemed a little ridiculous, I still liked the puzzle of the door. Just like in National Treasure, I think the sequel, The Gold is Behind Mount Rushmore. It's ridiculous, but I like the adventure part of it, the craziness. Whereas Sahara, it's a Civil War submarine that's in the Sahara Desert. It's a little ridiculous, but it's fun.
Yeah. Going back to like the scale and stuff, like I just didn't think, I wish there was more henchmen, because I know Ian and I were talking about this yesterday. Like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's literally an army, and so like Indiana Jones gets to do like a lot of different things to these guys. There's the classic, airplane fight scene, and then he gets on a machine gun, blows a lot of stuff, and then goes on a horse and, hopping from car to car, fighting just mobs of like men. There's two things. Either A, there's not enough henchmen, like random henchmen, or B, none of the henchmen have any characterization or do anything. So it's not like Die Hard or, any of the 80s movies where it was like, oh, all these like unique villains, they're all going to have like some small encounter with Lara Croft.
Well, I would prefer that the amount of henchmen they had stayed the same, but they did characterization with them. So like, so that you felt like they were a little bit more dangerous than they were, and the getting over it and being able to take them out has more impact. I wouldn't want more henchmen because then it would feel like she would turn into Rambo. And I don't want her to be John Rambo with the 50 cal weapon, like mowing down 300 people. You know, it's like, leave that for Rambo. I want her to be more of an adventure movie. I don't want her to be just a straight up action film.
Because I think at the end when like there's only 3 henchmen left plus the main villain. Like if they were like characterizations, it could have been like, oh, this would be really interesting to see, you know, when these guys finally encounter Lara Croft. But instead it's just like, oh, random dude chases after Lara Croft and apparently he's one of the lucky ones that knows how to do something, kind of, which is very interesting how like when she's stuck up in that area like of like dead person, why he didn't use his machine gun to shoot her down and just instead grabs her down. I didn't understand that. I couldn't understand like the location of stuff. Like it looks like he grabs her from like 5 feet down, and there's a shot that looks like she's like 50 feet that falls through like a bunch of stuff. And maybe you guys could figure that out. Like,
which scene are you talking about?
So it's a scene where like Dominic West starts fighting the main bad guy.
Are we in the tomb?
Yeah, in the tomb.
Yeah, so
and Laura like leaves to fight the other guy, like the random henchman, and she's hiding like on that skeleton, on that dead guy.
Right.
She's hiding where all the handmaidens are.
Yeah.
And he pulls her down, and then you're like, oh, maybe she's just like 10 feet up, like a few rows, but then they show like everything falling. And so she's like 20 or 30 feet up in the air.
And it's like how did he get up there, or why didn't he just like if he knew where she was, why didn't he just use this big thing on the back and just shoot her?
Now I agree with that he should have just pulled out his gun and gone hog wild on everything. But I didn't think the scale of where she was off. Like from what I was thinking is she was, because they showed, you know, the walls of the maidens. And I thought she was maybe 4 or 5 up. And what I thought was the guy climbed up and he was reaching in to grab her foot because he heard something and some, the finger or the arm cracked when she was moving. And so when he grabbed her, he slipped, and then the mix of her weight and his weight is what brought them all down the five different cactuses. the five different
stacks.
Stack of coffins as they came down. So that height difference seemed okay to me. But yeah, why he wouldn't just pull out his gun and start firing in that general direction.
It goes back to Ian's question. It's like one of those things where like all these bad guys were like, no, she's not a threat, even though she's killed this tracker, escaped somehow an insane death, and just taken out half her men. But I'm gonna, give her a chance and just like, drag her down.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess this part of the movie was probably my favorite, kind of like what Koricon was saying about, like, I feel like the big draw for this movie was like the action puzzle sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, in Indiana Jones, you get a lot of that. And I feel like that because, and we had talked about, that we didn't like the first act of the movie basically didn't really work with what they were trying to do. And it's, to me, when I was thinking about Indiana Jones is like, when you talk about like that they're looking for the Ark of the Covenant, like that's kind of a weird oddball thing to spend a movie about. But what works in that movie is that the first, half hour of that movie, they spend setting up this mood and this tone, and that, the protagonist really cares about this stuff and he's really invested in it. So then when you go into it, yeah, you can deal with all sorts of supernatural elements because you're already used to that and the characters are involved with that. Whereas like here, they tried to avoid it so that, when Walton Goggins is like, I'm going to kill your dad if you don't open the tomb, she's like, well, I don't believe anything's there. so we'll just go in anyway. And I don't feel like that worked as well as, like, you know, when you believe in it, then once you get down into the thing, then going into the tomb and solving the puzzle suddenly has more to it than what we did. I also thought that you were talking about henchman characterization, like when we see them outside of the tomb, outside of the cave, I mean, they're pretty threatening. I mean, they don't say a whole lot, but they shoot a lot of things. They shoot a lot of people. And, like, that's
they're
really
always
threatening.
shooting up in the air. Like, that's the question. It's like, they've been shooting up in the air for 7 years. Shouldn't they be out of bullets?
But once they get down into the tomb, like, the direction seemed to have seemed more scared and sympathetic, because they're all like afraid. And, like, man, I didn't want to come down here and do this. And it's like, wait a minute. These are the guys that were just mowing down people 5 minutes ago. And now they're these guys that we should feel sympathy for because they don't know what's going on. And it's like, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I liked the room with the puzzles. I like the room that with the floor falling away. And they had to figure out the different colored crystals to put in. That was a cool puzzle. I like that she was figuring out the puzzle to open the door. I wish they had a little bit more with that, because I felt like she just knew how to turn everything. I wanted a little bit more of, like, what the symbols meant and how she was figuring that out, instead of her just kind of reading it and doing it. But the hallways where they had the arrows shoot or the blades coming in, I thought they figured that stuff out way too quick. I would have liked a little bit more of an actual puzzle solving for that. But I did like the fact that when they unearthed the mummy, I can't remember her name. What was her name?
Yeah, Himiko.
Himiko. That it's not just, you know, this mystical thing like in Indiana Jones, that she was a carrier of a disease, you know, kind of like Typhoid Mary, or, you know, of the Black Plague, that kind of thing, where we have evidence of people like that existing in real life. Now, the fact that it kills you within 30 seconds, no. But that she was a carrier, and that's what the curse is. It's not a mystical curse. It's an actual, like, real threat. I was kind of thinking that way. What I was thinking of is that it wouldn't be a curse, that it would be kind of like a poison or a bacteria, because of what had happened in Egypt in the 1920s and 30s. When they unearthed some of those tombs, the bacteria that was released that had been encased in these tombs, these airtight tombs for so long, people got sick and died. And so people, the rumors were spreading around that the tomb was cursed because all of these people that were involved in it were dying. But they were dying because of a natural bacteria that they didn't really know or didn't consider. And I was thinking something along that lines, but that take it into the whole, she was a carrier of a disease, she was the only one immune. That was interesting to me. I just wish it wasn't a 30-second, almost zombie
Turn
movie.
you into a zombie, yeah.
Yeah, it was like The Walking Dead or something like that, Not even Walking Dead, like Dawn of the Dead, the remake, where they basically got turned into a zombie within like 2 minutes. I liked the realism of that she was a carrier, but then the disease was so unrealistic it made it mystical anyway, so you might as well have made her mystical as well.
Yeah, and like in the game she is mystical. Like there's this crazy fight scene at the end which most likely wouldn't have worked, but like I would have loved something, because in the game you go through this like giant tower and you fight a bunch of the henchmen throughout the tower, and yes, that's game of death, but like that would have been a lot of fun to like have like this ancient island that's like crazy weather's happening and you just have Lara Croft like doing stealth mode with a bow and arrow, just chopping her way through to get to the main bad guy. Like that stuff to me would have been a lot of fun. And also like, I know you guys mentioned this, like the puzzle solving. I wish he explained more of the stuff that was happening, or there was bigger puzzles, because that's like always the funnest part of mysteries and like adventure movies is how do they figure it out?
Well,
and usually in those, go on.
I was just saying the room with the floor falling through, they did that.
Yeah.
But it's the only one that they did that with.
Yeah, like everything else is just like, this. Or like there's not enough of them. Like, Indiana Jones has several, the one with the light where it reflects and you see the city and all that. Or then you have the one in the snake pit where he's trying to figure out, okay, how do we get out of this? Where are the snakes coming through? And like those are really fun and engaging scenes.
Right. How long to make the stick? You have to have both sides of the amulet instead of just the one side that was on the guy's hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even like in The Mummy, like I really enjoy like those scenes. And obviously, like I said, it's Sherlock, where at the very end of the movie he explains the villain's plot, and it's like, this is what you're doing. This is how I figured it out, and now you're done. And I wish there was that. I wish yet again, like the movie had, was confident in itself and gave it, some time to let characters speak instead of just going to the next set piece or the action sequence. Because outside of the floor scene, everything else just kind of went to like the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing pretty rapidly. It never felt like her picking up the bow and arrow and shooting stuff is supposed to be like this big moment because, it's the weapon she uses in the new video games. And like that sequence where she's fighting, like where she's shooting people takes like 45 seconds. And then it just goes right into like, oh, I'm going to kill Dominic or you're going to open this. Okay, I'll open it. And then it's like we just keep going, and it's like some of these like places that it should be a lot of fun or a lot of like the good parts or the more action, and we should focus on that stuff a little bit more than just going to another set piece.
Any thoughts, Ian?
Let's see, not specifically about that. The only thing that I was thinking about is the zombie thing. The really only like positive that I got out of it was in the last Maze Runner movie, Walton Goggins is in it, and he's like disfigured by the virus, and I'm like, oh, now I know what happened.
God, he got hit again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like Walter Goggins. Everything he does, I like his character. Even the cheesy ones, I think he does the cheesy ones very well also. I was happy to see him as the villain. And I think Dominic would do a good father. I just didn't like what they did with him when they were on the island. He seemed... I would have liked him to have been a little bit more... not crazy and defeated. He seemed really defeated. I would have liked him to have been a little bit more like, I'm still trying, kind of thing. Instead,
he needed to be a little more integral to the story instead of just like there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that definitely, because now that I think about it, it's like, his, it doesn't really matter. Someone brought up a good point that like this entire plot doesn't matter at all. It could completely been avoided if Lara Croft just listened to her father and just burned all their files. Because Trinity would have never discovered Himiko. She would have Trinity would have never gotten the company, and like it would have been like, oh, end of the movie, just burn all the files. And I was like, yeah, could have happened.
Now, what did you? I don't know if you guys are fans of Simon Pegg and all of those movies, but
I like Nick Frost in this movie.
I love Nick Frost. I was so happy when I saw him in the trailer, and then he was still. I knew he wasn't going to be in it very much. He's just that one pawn shop guy. But I loved him as the pawn shop guy.
He's the best part for me.
I love Nick Frost.
I thought his wife was funny too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like
flirting. I'm not flirting.
I didn't like the final line. Oh gosh, where Laura said, "I'll take 2 of these."
Basically, it's fan service for the games, But
I figured she was going to have a gun at some point.
I found out that Vikander actually, there was supposed to be a lot of one-liners in the movie, and she told them to take them out because it's not realistic at all.
That was probably a good choice.
Yeah, that was a good choice. If she had a whole bunch of one-liners, it wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
But overall, I had fun with the movie. What I said in my spoiler-free review that is on my channel, I said, it was a fun adventure movie. You get your popcorn, you turn your brain off, and you just enjoy it. If you think too deep on it, then yeah, there's problems with the movie. But like any other kind of action film or those kind of adventure action films, you can have fun with it. You can turn your brain off and have fun with it. It wasn't like some of those other video game movies like Doom or
Mario Brothers.
The worst one I saw was
Annihilation.
what was the Dead? It was the Dead movie. Oh, I can't remember.
It wasn't Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
No, it was.
Or Street Fighter?
No, it was.
There's something worse than those.
Yeah,
oh, gosh.
it was a zombie movie where they're on an island.
Wait, Dead Island?
No, it was something dead. I can't remember. Anyway, it was so bad. The best actor in the film was the main zombie that you saw for less than 5 minutes at the end of the movie. He was the best actor. And he died within a couple of minutes of being introduced. They had pointless, bullet cam, because it was right after Matrix. One scene, the girl is with a shotgun. She's standing still. Zombie is running towards her. She jumps straight up in the air. They do the bullet time with the camera go around her, and then she fires the shotgun. But if you didn't have the bullet time, she literally just hopped once and fired the shotgun. It makes no sense whatsoever. But at least this isn't like that. I would put this up there with some of the better video game movies, if not one of the best video game movies.
I would put it high praise, but
well, video game movies suck for the most part. I like the first Mortal Kombat, but that's mostly nostalgia. As a movie goes, it would be just as bad as any other movie. And
yeah, but see, it has one thing above everything else. That theme song.
It does. It has the
there's
ultimate
not many
theme
movies
song.
That it opens, and I'm just like, all right, it's time to watch Mortal Kombat. And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, the first teaser was just that song with the Mortal Kombat logo, and that was it. And people were sold. They were going to go watch the movie. You didn't even see the characters.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, I went and saw Dumb and Dumber 7 times in the theater just to see the trailer. Because this was before the internet. You couldn't see the trailer. You couldn't just go and download it somewhere. So we had to watch it. I watched Dumb and Dumber 7 times just so I could see the trailer for Mortal Kombat.
So we can all agree that the Mortal Kombat campaign was better than the Tomb Raiders.
But when it goes to video game movies, I'm one of the rare people that actually liked the Warcraft movie for what it was. And I thought the ending was bad, and there were some elements in there. But for the most part, I had fun with it. It's something I could watch. I put Tomb Raider up with Warcraft.
For me, we can get into ratings in a second, but I still put Mortal Kombat as the highest one, mainly because it's like, okay, it has the best theme, one of the best themes I've ever heard, and it looks somewhat like the video game, and I don't know, it's a fun movie. I'd probably put Tomb Raider below even Mortal Kombat Annihilation for
No.
just like
No.
because
No. That's
No CGI
no.
dragon.
I don't even care what you have
Wait,
to
no.
say because you're wrong. That's so
because
wrong.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation is very entertaining
No, it's not. It's horrible.
in a bad way.
Not even entertaining in a bad way. I'd rather
Well-
watch Batman and Robin. That was no.
Well, okay, so we can now get to ratings.
Well, we know what yours is. What about you, Ian? Did you have a summary?
I mean, I thought Alicia Vikander did good with what they gave her to do. I thought she gave the best performance in the movie. I want her to be in more things where she can show off her range and what she can do. Because I don't think that the problems, like I mentioned problems with their character, but it's not problems that have to do with her. The problems that I have with the movie have mostly to do with the writing.
Mm-hmm.
Than with individual performances. I liked some of the puzzle sequence stuff. I wish I felt more invested in the story and the characters. That kind of goes along with the story elements. And the only other thing was getting to see Walton Goggins' origin story for the Maze Runner movie. So I'm going to give it like 4.5 out of 10.
All right. What about you, Matt?
So kind of going off of Ian.
Hold on. I'm gonna take a guess. Let me guess.
Are you gonna just start doing this now? Guess what Matt's gonna rate movies?
I'm gonna let's see.
He gave Dredd a 6, didn't he?
Well, he does letter grades like I do.
I gave it like a D.
I'm gonna give. Let's see. If you think Annihilation is a fun movie, okay. What did you think?
Okay, so going off of what Ian said, but a little bit more, I thought the first 30 minutes was a complete and utter waste. I think the movie somehow magically being 100 million, I don't know where that money went because nothing looked big and insane. I think they waste Vikander's not only talent, but how much she was willing to give up for the role and how hard she was working. So I will give it, I honestly probably give it a 2.5. So an F, around an F minus, yeah. And also
F's don't have pluses or minuses. F is just F.
Okay, so
It's lower than an F.
So an F would be like a 1 or a 0.
Oh, so yeah, I would just give it an F. And for the other reason, they build Daniel Wu like second, and he's literally in there for like 20 minutes at most. And half of it, he's a slave.
See, I
F you, movie.
thought you were gonna give it a D minus.
Oh.
I was close. If you had kept with a 2.5, I would have been right.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like I said, the movie would have been a D, but Daniel Wu, I was excited to see him. Nope. Doesn't do anything. He's a martial artist, and he doesn't even fight once. He just holds a gun and says, should I shoot? Should I not? I don't know.
And he was drunk for the first part of it.
Yeah,
He does do a stunt, Matt. He falls off the...
he does. He falls
boat.
off the boat.
We should all give good job.
That was a pretty nice fall you did there.
All right, so I agree the beginning wasn't good. I would have liked some changes at the end. I did like the puzzle stuff. I would have liked a little bit more with some of the puzzle stuff. some of the characters, like when we get into the nitty gritty of the details, there's a lot of things I would have fixed in the writing. But I did have fun with the adventure, and I liked Walter Goggins. I thought it was shot pretty well, except for some of the CG elements I didn't like, and I agree, some of the green screen not the best, especially for $100 million movie. It looked more like a $40 or $50 million movie. But that being said, as a get your popcorn and watch the film, and it being one of the better video game movies, I'm giving it a B.
Oh, man.
Because it's something you can watch and just have fun with. Well, I think we just lost...
Did he just leave? Because
I think we just lost Ian.
he was so embarrassed.
And now your face is taking up the bottom half of the screen. And you've got a blue line through your head.
Oh, he was so embarrassed by that rating. He's like,
yeah, he left. He's like, screw it.
No, I'm pretty sure like internet problems.
Yeah. Well, let's end the video. That's our thoughts. Some of us liked it, or I liked it. Matt hated it, and Ian thought it was just all right. We ran the entire gambit, good, negative, and in the middle. So thank you guys for watching. We got links in the description to all of our social medias, my Patreon, Mailbox, all kinds of things. So check that out.
And we will soon be going back to YJ, hopefully.
Yes, I will be having a new YJ episode coming out on Friday.
Awesome.
And then we are going to be filming some more in the next week. Yep. So keep a watch out for that. We are trying to figure out our times, because with him living on the East Coast now and me dealing with all of my issues with work, we're trying to figure it out and do as much as we can. So stay tuned. Next week, what was it we were talking about?
Kubo and the Two Strings.
Okay.
And then Ready Player One.
Doesn't something come out this weekend? Does Pacific Rim?
Pacific Rim, yeah.
I think I'm going to review that for the channel, but it's just going to be a spoiler-free review on my channel. I'm not going to be doing a long discussion. So come back next week. Hopefully we can do it on Thursday. We may not be able to, depending on my job. So right. we will see. Otherwise, stay tuned on my social media. I announce everything. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And we will see you on the next video. And thingy. Quick promotion, everybody. I'm having fun using the Stardust app, which allows you to make up to a 30-second reaction to movies and TV shows, and I'd love to see your reactions and put them in my videos. If you're interested in that, download the Stardust app. I've got a link to it in the description below, and make sure to follow Koricon. And whenever you make a reaction, make sure that you tag Koricon so that I get notified and can see it. Whenever I make a reaction video or a movie review, and I see your video, I will take clips from it and put them in my video. If you're a YouTuber, make sure to put your YouTube channel name on your reaction if you want free promotion. And if you're a fan of my channel and just want to be in there, great. So tag me on your reactions.